What an absolutely fantastic couple episodes to come back to for the 86. This is a series that seems to be constantly impressing me more and more, but I just got done with the 4th and 5th episode of the series, and these are my thoughts on it currently. So main focus of episode 4 was to really kind of hit on this idea that even though Lena does have compassion for the 86, she technically is following in the same footsteps as her father, and her uncle quickly kind of points this out that even though she looks up to her father as being this person that was looking to change things, he was kind of similar to her. He was just an onlooker. He talked about it, but he never did anything. And I kind of feel like this is a good wake-up call for Lena, even though technically you could argue that her father could have had ideas of ways to fix things. He just didn't get to do that just because, as we find out, he, while showing Lena the area outside of the 85 and showing the kind of the nasty things the Albas are doing, the helicopter itself crashed and he lost his life during the whole scuffle. And this kind of gives a really kind of clear perspective, like I said, of something that he seemed to have a desire for but never did anything for. And I think that's going to be a really great jumping point for Lena as we start to build her character and to see what she can do to basically, yes, kind of pick up where her father left off, but also not be stuck in what her father was stuck in, which was being an onlooker, being disgusted, but never doing anything about it. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. Like I mentioned before, really wasn't sure where I would want this show to go technically, because I don't really want it to be a Lena takes the 86 and they overthrow the Alba and everything's happy, but more kind of build her character gradually to get to a point where she can do something. Doesn't have to be everything, but something. And I think that's, like I said, a really good direction to bring her to. We also kind of had an answer to our previous episode question, which was who's this Alba person that apparently fought alongside some of the members of the 86, and that was this guy that they called Fox Commander. And Fox himself, he kind of was talking about the fact that this was a person that he had met in their first platoon. He was an Alba that chose not to, stay behind the walls and just kind of let the 86 handle everything. He wanted to fight and protect their homeland, and that was kind of the main thing that he kind of brought to the picture, was this idea of somebody unlike Lena's father, who was an Alba that did not like what was happening. This was somebody that became an equal to them. And this becomes like a really strong focus in that 4th episode, is this idea of, yeah, you don't even ask us our name. That's when she finally decides to ask everybody their names. But even though she is this person that they, as the 86 can, like, because she's not a terrible Alba, she's not an equal. And she never will be an equal because she's not up there with them. She'll fight in the back lines. That's all good. They won't hate her, but she doesn't gain the, respect of being an equal because she's not there with them, unlike Fox Commander, who was. And like I said, I think it's a really good possible transition to later on. Maybe we'll see Lena actually go there and fight in the front lines with them, rather than just being an informant in the back. We also had Lena finally get Shin's name, which she finds out that, this is this guy that protected me back in the past. And as we see in episode 5, this guy that found Lena, her dead father, came in, protected her, saved her life, and then brought her back to safety. And that's where we get, Shin's respect for his brother. A lot of shots of the fact that they're alive before that they were a part of the 86. These quick little snapshots of, them with Alba behind them. So obviously back when they were still part of the major districts, before they were separated. And then obviously at this point, Shin is saying that he's dead, but not fully dead, which gets more into stuff. Episode 5 we got in some crazy stuff. So yeah, I guess that's my thoughts on episode 4. Generally, is I really did like this aspect of finally showing Lena that her father wasn't this great person. He was an onlooker as well, and that he possibly left a legacy to her, not just to stand and watch, but to make action, to do action. Also, to kind of bridge a little bit between her and 86, establishing what their names are, and that she really truly does want to help them in any way that she can. And we also found about the 561 tags that were in that Shin's keeping. Apparently, that's something that the last remaining person of each group it hands it off to the next person as they pass away. And so not necessarily means that he has seen 561 people die, but necessarily that we're more for the fact that he's the last one to hold on to and he hasn't died yet. So you can't insinuate that means that he's seen 561 people die, but it could have been passed. Some of that could have been passed on to him, according to what he actually claims it's for. So yeah, moving on to episode 5, because this is where things get really crazy. So essentially in this episode, we've established a couple things. One, we got to see Lena being saved by Shin's brother. A little bit of a connection they're having now between the two of them through the brother. We also established that Shin hears things. Ever since this point in which Shin nearly died, he has always been able to hear the voices of the Legion. And this is the point which we have established that essentially the Legion, in order to continue to process, because the Empire believes that once 2 years pass, the life expectancy of these legions will fail and the war will be over. But it's under Shin's belief that what is happening currently is that the Legion is harvesting the brains of humans that are died on the battlefield and putting them into machines to fight on past that point. So he claims to Lena specifically, this war is not going to end. You guys are going to lose because of you're already using. Basically, they're down to the children of the 86. Like all that's left to fight your battle are children. They're running out of people, and once those children die, what are you going to do? You no longer have anybody to fight for you. Are you going to fight now? And it's funny because at this point I was like, oh man, I can start theorizing the idea of, well, this is going to be a good jumping point for Lena to essentially go to the Alba and say, you no longer have anybody to protect you. You have had people protect you. You no longer have people to protect you. It's time for you to step up, and now Alba needs to start fighting. And she pretty much he already mentioned the idea of, well, you gonna fight? Okay, never mind. He's already pointing that out. He's all for the idea of, yeah, go ahead and try. But yeah, that was really interesting. But yeah, the voices thing was crazy because at some point he's like, you need to cut off comms because we're going into battle and you're gonna get off on point. No, it was specifically to get her off the comms because she can hear what he hears. And that equates to the ghosts that he hears, which is the voices of the Legion of these people whose brains have been harvested. And she gets that crosstalk. So she starts hearing people scream and yell. And then right before she cuts off the comms, they hear Kai. And apparently, when they die, in order to prevent them from harvesting the brains, before they die, they have to burn they have to burn the bodies so that the Legion doesn't get their bodies, or they can't bury them because the Legion will get the bodies. They will, retain the brain, and then they will use it in the robots to fight. And they also specifically point out the commanders, who are they called shepherds. These are people who they've gotten the brains of these people that are not damaged, and so these are like the most, I guess, more capable brains to use in combat. And he says they don't retain who they are. These brains are specifically like the last moments of these soldiers that they utilize in combat. So we're getting really crazy at this point, which does technically answer my question at the very beginning of the show. We did have crosstalk happening between the two sides of the battlefield, and I assumed it was because the Legion was going to be just a bunch of humans as well. But at this point, we're establishing that it's not that they're humans, it's just that they're the brains of fallen comrades that are now on the other side of the battlefield, which was really crappy because now, we already had them to have to take down Kai a second time. And this also establishes that, since he's hitting so much on these shepherds, and by Shin grabbing his collar, obviously they're insinuating that his brother is going to be one of these commanders. And this is what he means by saying, my brother's dead, but I have to go get him. What, his body? No. His brain. I have to basically finally put an end to him so they stop using my brother, basically. So yeah, we had a quick shot at the very end, Shin's neck being scarred, and apparently his brother was strangling him and saying that it's his fault, and apparently strangling him so bad it permanently scarred his neck. So, okay. Either that or he chopped his head off afterwards and they put him back together afterwards. Usually that scar means they chopped their head off, but apparently him strangling him so hard, he permanently scarred his neck for life. So that's a thing. But yeah, he's essentially, Lena and Shin have come to an agreement that they're going to put into this war before this year ends, that Shin's final year. Again, like I said, there's nothing saying that Shin is going to get out of here in a year. And I'm curious, since it is a 2-course show, if they will get so far in the timeline that we'll get to see that point in which Shin is finally supposed to leave and they say, no, you can't. And he's like, well, I'm not going to leave anyways. I'm going to put an end to this kind of thing. So I'm also curious because they did put a lot of focus on, and they've put it in the past, Annette talking to Lena about the damages of her brain. And technically, she got a little bit of that crosstalk happening, and that really did affect her mentally. It really did seem like they were putting Lena in a light that she was getting severely traumatized by what she was hearing, but she recovered. But I'm curious if eventually they'll get to the point where Lena is in communication so much in order to help them that eventually this leads to her seeing some kind of permanent damage caused by her communication, and that be a, you know, technically a good sign to the 86 that she's willing to put herself at basically physical risk. It is a cool thing because my theory is that we could have a moment at some point where she almost goes comatose because she's been spending so much time communicating to them, and it wears on her. And this gives them a sign of, oh yeah, by the way, she's risking her life too. And like I said, I'm curious if they'll actually acknowledge that, or if it's just going to be a thing where eventually she just has to go to the front lines in order to, basically fully convince them and be at their, again, equal. So, yeah. Great stuff overall. Really love it. Like I said, this last episode 5, was absolutely fantastic. Really gut-wrenching. Just the trauma of the cross voices, the black sheep as they call them, all that stuff was fantastic. Looking forward to more. I hope they keep it up. It's going on full cylinders at this point, and I'm really enjoying it. So that's my thoughts on 86, the episode 4 and 5 of the series. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment down below, let me know what you thought of this episode, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope you all enjoyed, and you all take care.